Hey y'all, favorite family law attorney Bonnie Rhoden here, serving East Central Florida, Brevard County area. This video is for people that are not getting divorced and who do not have a custody matter open at this time. If you are happily married, if you are co-parenting well, if you have no kids and no plans to leave, this is the one I actually want you to watch. Because the parents and spouses who come to me in trouble are almost never the ones who saw it coming. In fact, I can't tell you one single couple or client that has come to me asking questions that says, oh yeah, I knew we were going to get divorced, or I knew she was going to keep the baby for me, or I knew he was going to flake out and not want to pay child support. I've never had it happen. So ordinary people who lived an ordinary life, and then all of a sudden something changed. By the time they needed a record of the last 5 years, the last 3 years, those 5 years were gone. I practice family law. This is general information, not legal advice. Every example that I use here is a composite, but it's all based on people's real cases and my real experience. I'm going to tell you here what to document, how to write it so it helps you instead of hurting you, and the specific things not to do. And I'm going to spend real time on the phrase I hear constantly, which is the word narcissist, because how you handle that particular belief will determine whether your documentation is worth anything at all. Okay, so why do you document something when there's nothing wrong? There's 3 reasons. The first is that memory does not work the way you think it does. You believe you will remember the important things. You will remember that there were important things, but you will not remember the date, the time, the exact words or quotation, or who was standing where. And in a legal proceeding, the date, the time, and the quotation, and who was standing there and there, that's the entire ball game. Second reason, you cannot build a record backwards. You can't do it. This is the hardest conversation I have on a daily basis. When you write things down in plain factual language without adjectives, and you actually put it in place while it's timely, nothing will disappear. You have it down. I cannot manufacture the last 5 years, and you cannot manufacture the last 5 years with sufficient detail either. Neither can any other attorney, neither can the other side of your case. The window to create your record was of that 5 years or that 3 years was while it was happening, and today the window is closed on what happened last week. It's gone. All right, so reason number 3 why you should be documenting when there's not a problem. Nobody expects this. Documenting changes what you see. When you take the time to write down the facts, you use plain language. You don't embellish it. You will find out fairly quickly whether you have a pattern or whether you have had a bad 3 weeks. I have had people start a log convinced their marriage was in crisis and discover from their own notes that the problem was concentrated around one stressor that resolved. That's a good outcome. Documentation is not only used as a weapon, it's also a mirror. If the marriage stays fine, if your co-parenting stays fine, you will never open your documentation again. You will have wasted a few minutes a week, and you will have an unusually well-organized household inventory. That is the very worst case. And I don't mean an inventory of stuff. Okay, so let's deal with the narcissist question right up front, handling it honestly and directly. I hear constantly, my spouse is a narcissist. My co-parent is a narcissist. It's the woman, it's the man, it's the in-laws. I want to be careful here because I'm not going to stand in front of a camera and tell people they are imagining things. Some people describe something real. Coercive control. financial control, relentless blame shifting, a person who reshapes reality in conversation until you no longer trust your own memory. Those behaviors exist. They do real damage, and being told you are exaggerating is often part of the damage. Here's the problem. And it is not a problem with your experience. It is a problem with the word narcissist. A court will not take a psychiatric diagnosis from a spouse. Unless you are a psychiatrist, you are not qualified to give a diagnosis, no matter how much reading you do. And the other side of your case will make that point in front of the judge. Worse than that, when a judge hears one party diagnose the other, the judge does not learn anything about your spouse. The judge learns something about you, and it is not favorable. You have just moved yourself away from witness to an advocate, and you have handed the other attorney an easy way to make you look unreliable. There's a deeper issue here too. Florida law does not have a factor for the other party's personality. The factors that are in Florida Statute 61.13 that time sharing is based on, the court shall consider those. There is no provision that says personality traits matter in co-parenting. There's no provision in equitable distribution for a personality trait. Time sharing, equitable distribution, not in alimony. There is no provision that says if the other party is difficult or grandiose or self-centered, that you get more of the house or more of the overnights. General marital misconduct, being unpleasant, being a bad partner, does not by itself move the numbers, the overnight numbers, the dollar numbers. So the word itself does nothing for you. But here's the thing. The behaviors underneath the word itself can do a great deal for you if you document them as behaviors. The rule is the same rule I give in the mediation video, and it's the most important sentence in this entire video. Document observations, acts, and words, never conclusions nor diagnoses. Do not write that he or she is a narcissist. Write that on the 14th, when you told him or her you had been offered a promotion, that the response was, and here you use the exact words in quotation marks, and then walked out of the room, and that he did not speak to you for the next 2 days. That is documenting facts. Do not write that you were gaslit. Write that on the 3rd of June, she told you the school pickup was at 3, that you have her text saying 3, that she told you the school, that she told the school you had gotten the time wrong because it's in the notes in the school record, and that when you showed her the text, she told you that you had misunderstood her. That's gaslighting, but you're documenting the actions and the behaviors. You're not making a conclusion. Don't write that he is controlling. Write that he changed the online banking password without telling you. That you discovered it on the 9th of February when you tried to log in. That when you asked him about it, that he said he would handle the money from now on, and that you have had to ask him for cash for groceries 11 times since then, and list the dates. Do you see what's happening here? In every one of these examples, the reader reaches the conclusion themselves. And a conclusion the judge reaches independently from the facts that you laid out neutrally is enormously powerful, and more so than a label that you hand over. You have also just given your attorney things to go find: the text message, the bank record, the school employee, or the record, someone who spoke to the spouse on the telephone. You're giving your attorney the ability to go and find corroborating evidence. Okay, so one more piece of this before we move on. 20 individual entries like that, spread across 2 years, tell a story that no single incident can tell. Any one of them sounds pretty bad. Read together, dated in your own neutral language, show a pattern. Pattern is what you are building. That is why you start before you need it, because a pattern cannot be assembled from the last 3 weeks. That's it. All right, next segment. We're going to write our documentation as though it will be read, because you can assume if you ever have a case, it will be read. Okay? Before I tell you what to document, I need to tell you something most people do not know. If you end up in a divorce, the things you have written may be discoverable. Your journal, your notes app, your log, your emails to your sister. Discovery in family law is very broad. I am not going to tell you every entry you make will end up in front of a judge, because that depends on many things. But I want you to write every single entry as though it might be read by the judge. That means no venting, no insults, no diagnosing, no profanity, no fantasies about what you would like to happen to this person, nothing you would be embarrassed to read out loud in a courtroom here in Brevard County with your children old enough to hear about it later. I know that is not what journaling usually is for, so separate the two. Please, separate the two. If you need a place to be angry, that's what a therapist is for. That's what your best friend is for. That's what your pastor is for. Even better, confidential conversations where you vent. That's a good idea. So separate that unloading and venting from your documenting, okay? There are protections around therapy that don't exist around your notebook, but your log is a business record about your own life. If you're keeping it to prepare for future litigation, it is possible that it will be protected. If it's just a list of facts, even if it is discovered at some point, it's just facts. And those are facts that are useful to both you in your case and also to the other side, because it will show the other side that you have been documenting a pattern. So that's the discipline. Let's go content. Where do we need to start documenting? So financial behavior. This is where documentation can get some real traction. If you take one category seriously, make it this one. Not because money matters more than how you are treated, but because this is where a record actually changes legal outcomes. Florida equitable distribution starts from a premise of roughly equal division of marital assets and debts. Moving off that, so to get more or less, so more assets, less debts, it requires justification. And personality is not one of the factors that go to justification, but money conduct can be. Intentional dissipation or waste of marital assets, hidden accounts, unilateral transfers, gambling, large unexplained cash withdrawals, spending marital money on another person. These are the kind of facts that get a court's attention. Alimony analysis has its own framework, substantially revised in 2023, and it turns heavily on a documented need, documented ability to pay, and the documented standard of living during the marriage. What's the one word you hear in all three of those? Document. So you want to document money the way an accountant would, not the way a spouse would. Write down what accounts exist as you find them, where they are, whose name are they in. Update it when it changes. Note the date you discover an account you did not know about, and how you discovered it. Note when access changes, a password changes, your name's removed from a card, statements are redirected to a different address. Online access is revoked. These are all things that you want to note. Take note of large purchases you did not agree to with dates and amounts. Just note them. You're not angry about them, or maybe you are, but you're just documenting facts, just facts. Note cash withdrawals that don't have an explanation. Note when you're told you can't see the statements. If you ask and you're told no, if you go to the bank, you should be able to get them if your name's on the account. If you can't get them, well, make note. Make note if you go to the bank and they tell you yes and give them to you. Make note if you're not on the account and they tell you no. Notate it. If you have to ask permission to spend money on ordinary household expenses, document that and how often, dates, times, situations. Keep the documents themselves if you can get copies of them. Keep them somewhere only you can reach them. Tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs, closing documents on your house, retirement statements, loan applications, Social Security letters and statements that come with projections, business records if there is a business. A loan application is sometimes one of the most useful documents in our work because it is a sworn statement about income and assets that your spouse wrote when they wanted something. These are very helpful. And with today's technology, all you have to do is snap some pictures and secure the pictures by emailing them to yourself in a private email account, or documenting them by printing copies and putting them in a safe deposit box or a file at your office. You should also document the ordinary shape of your financial life, which sounds pointless until it is the central issue in an alimony case. What the household spent monthly, what vacations look like, what the cars were, whether there was help with housekeeping or daycare or childcare in the house, who paid for what. Nobody remembers this accurately 5-10 years later, and it is exactly what a court is asked to reconstruct. A warning that goes with this segment: do not move money to protect yourself unless you have advice from an attorney or your accountant. Do not empty an account. Do not open a secret account and start diverting income. Do not hide a tax refund. That behavior is discoverable. So if you're going to do it, just do it. Don't hide it. Just do it. It's all going to be traceable. You can't move money around, cash checks, make transfers. You just can't do it without being able to be tracked. So you don't want to be the person that is complaining about misconduct on one side and you don't have clean hands, right? So document, don't maneuver. If you want to try to maneuver, you need to talk to an attorney. You need a private conversation with an attorney that has a confidential relationship with you and you only. Okay, verbal conduct. We're going to document this. Yelling, name calling, threats, statements made in front of the children, statements made in public. Same rule. What was it said? In quotation marks, if you can remember. Actual words. Where were you? What time was it? Who else was present or within earshot? By name. List them. What you saw. A door slammed. An object was thrown. A child's reaction, such as little Janie, after the glass was thrown, let out a yelp, covered her ears, and screamed that she was scared. Be as specific as you can. If you're paraphrasing rather than quoting, just say so in the entry. Resist that urge to soften and resist the urge to inflate. If he called you a specific ugly word, write the word. If you do not remember what she said, whether it was one thing or another, write that you don't remember it was either this word or that word. A log that admits uncertainty is far, far more credible than one where every memory is crisp and every quote is perfect, because human memory does not work like that. And everyone in the courtroom, especially the judge, will know that. All right, so how do we deal with manipulation? All right, so you need to turn manipulation into something concrete if you want to use it in the court. This is a hard category to document, and it's one that I get asked about all the time because the harm is real and the individual incidents yet feel like nothing. The technique is to document the contradiction, not the feeling. So again, facts, not feelings, not diagnoses, not assumptions, not accusations. When you're told something that conflicts with something you have in writing, note both. So you have a telephone call and you have a text message. Note the difference in your logbook with dates. When a commitment is made and then denied, note when it was made, which you should have done on the day that it was made, and then using whatever words from that day. And then when something contradicts that, a denial or somebody doesn't show up, then document that too. So a promise or an agreement, and then the day that is that it's denied. It doesn't show up for the timeshare exchange or whatever that might be. Both should be documented. One should be documented on the day that you got the promise, and one documented on the day that the problem became apparent. What you're creating is a set of pairs. So you have a statement here, you have a contradiction there. One pair means nothing. 20, 30 pairs across 2 years is a documented pattern. And it does not require you to diagnose anyone because the record makes this point without you having to put a label on it. All right, next topic, parenting, including the part that people get wrong. Two different things get mixed together here, and mixing them is what can damage a case. The first is a genuine difference of parenting opinion. He lets them have more screen time. She is stricter about bedtime. He feeds them food you would not choose. She wants the boys to play football, the boys to play dance, and the girls to play football. Whatever it is, that's a parenting difference. Document that if you like, but understand that a court is not going to reallocate a child's life over it. And a log consisting mostly of these types of entries are going to make you look difficult rather than concerned. Be honest with yourself which category an entry belongs into. Is it a genuine difference of parenting opinion, or is it actually a problem? So conduct, this is worth documenting, and documenting carefully. Missed medical appointments with dates. Medication not given. A child left unsupervised with child's age and the length of time. If you have a screenshot from where the child was when a child was left unsupervised, take the screenshot and put it with your documents and make note of it in your log that you have that screenshot. Anybody who's driving with the child after drinking, don't say that the other parent is a drunk and was driving drunk. State the facts that you know. Even if you're using words from the child, quote the child if you can. It might not be usable because it's hearsay, but if you end up with a guardian ad litem in your case, the guardian ad litem can use it. So make the notes. You're going to want to also document school absences, tardies. You want to document no-shows for things that matter to the child. Did the other parent maybe cause the child to miss a confirmation on a Sunday because of time sharing was with the other parent? What about graduation or meet the teacher day or a field trip because the other parent refused to consent or ignored your request for a permission slip to be signed? You also want to document who's performing the daily caregiving in your household, who does the pickups, the homework, the doctor visits, the school communications. That last one is unglamorous, and it matters enormously if a parenting plan is ever litigated. It's boring, but those matter so much because they're right from the factors in the statute. Collect the third-party records as you go. Pediatrician records, school attendance tardy reports, the school's medication or clinic log, the daycare sign-in sheets, receipts for purchases, pictures of items that you've sent back and forth between the houses. If something goes missing, you have a photo of it. These carry weight because they're corroborating pieces of information and you didn't create it. So the school record, the medical records, you didn't create those, the doctor did. If you reported something to the doctor and he or she puts it into the record, then it's in the file. That can be admissible. And it corroborates your concern over nutrition or the child is not getting enough sleep. Rather than diagnosing it, you document it, you go to the pediatrician, you report your concern, the pediatrician does their job, and it gets documented in their file as well. Now you have two things that are corroborating each other. Definitely good. Okay, the documents nobody thinks about until it's an emergency. This is short. It's really not optional, and it applies to whether or not you ever divorce. Know where your original documents are. I'm sure you have a will because every adult over the age of 18 should have one. If you have a trust, you need to know where that document is. If you own property, you need to know where your deeds are. If you own cars, you need to know where your titles are. If you have insurance, you need to know where your policies are. You need birth certificates, marriage certificates, military records, discharge as well as current, passports. Where are they? Write down what exists, where it is, and keep your copy of the list and the documents. You can also make copies of all of the credit cards and items inside of your wallet and your spouse's wallet. If you have advance directives, healthcare surrogate designations, powers of attorney, know where those are and what they say, because the moment they matter is a moment when nobody has time to go looking. Trust me on that. You need to know where those are. Keep an insurance inventory, life insurance, health insurance, disability, homeowners, auto insurance with the policy numbers and carriers, or shoot pictures of your policies when they come in and keep a photo album on your phone of just those types of documents. Make them private so that they're hidden. Whatever it is that you think you can do. You have a safe deposit box, put copies there. Know where the key is. It's worth doing here, especially this type of documentation because of our hurricanes and what have you. It certainly will be a lot easier if you have all of those documents in a shared drive, in the Google Drive, in your iCloud, so that you have it and you don't have to worry about where the paper is. Have a plan for account access that does not involve sharing passwords in a text message. And understand that access to your spouse's accounts is not yours to take. Which brings me to this last little segment. What not to do. Do not get into your spouse's email, their phone, their social media, or their cloud account, even if you know the password, even if it is a shared device. If you've done it before with permission, that's fine. But the minute that you make access to it unauthorized, you are opening yourself up to a problem. If you want to take a picture of something on your spouse's phone and they allow you access into the phone, then do it. Don't install tracking software. Don't install monitoring software on your spouse or your child when they're going to the other side. This is something that in Florida it is considered a crime, and you don't want to do that. Don't delete things. Don't delete your emails out of your box just because you're done with the email. Archive it. That's what archive's for. Don't delete your texts. Get a program and upload them and secure your text messages. You have no idea the huge treasure trove of information that is in your text messages that to support your logbook and to corroborate what's in your logbook. Do this starting now going forward. If there are certain instances in the past that have happened and you feel now that you've listened to all this information that you want to go back and document things retroactively, do it now, but make note that that entry was made on this date about an item or an event that happened 2 years ago, so that you are clearly showing in your log that this is a recall from 2 years. A log written all at once, which some people do, it's better than nothing at all. However, it's so hard to do. Injunction court, if people were to do this type of documenting, injunction court would be a heck of a lot easier for them. And a lot more injunctions would be granted. Don't turn this into a project against your spouse. If you're not in the middle of a case and you're just documenting this in case something happens in the future, whether it's a divorce or a paternity action or a child custody situation, then great, you'll have records. If a hurricane comes, you'll still have the records. If somebody dies, you'll have records. You don't want to make this into a witch hunt against your spouse. That's not what you're doing. You're just documenting. It's worth saying out loud to a counselor, if you're having problems, documentation to support that is good. Look, here's the summary. This is almost a 30-minute video. This is the whole video in about 4 sentences. Write down what happens on the day it happens in plain factual language with dates, names, and actual words. Never write a conclusion or a diagnosis. Write the acts and let anyone who reads it draw their own conclusion. Take financial behavior as seriously as you take how you are treated, because that is where a record has the most legal force. Keep it clean enough that you would be comfortable with a judge reading every word, because that is the standard that makes it useful. Your life stays good. You will never need any of this. If it does, become necessary that you need this, you will have the one thing I cannot help you create after the fact. You will walk into an attorney's office well prepared and so well documented, you may find that that attorney gives you a kiss. We just don't see documentation like this very often. And the ones who have it, it makes all the difference in the outcome of their case. Keep in mind, this is general information about Florida law. This is not specific legal advice. I'm not your attorney. I'm just an attorney out there in the world. We don't have a relationship simply by watching this video. If you need help or you have questions and you're in our area, you can always call us. Otherwise, seek some help from an experienced family law attorney in your area. Bye, y'all.